So good afternoon or good day, and today we get to talk about a small plant family, but it's going to be one that is also going to have some good representation in California, as well as some of the tropical areas. And here's Catalina Island with some of the bison, which is the iconic animal that was introduced into Catalina for a movie and left there, and now it's one of the main tourist attractions. But the wilderness, the wildlife, the plant life in Catalina is still very nice, and there's going to be a lot of endemics. And so, because the plants family that we're going to be seeing today has good representation in California, that's why I have that image. And so, let's look at the family tree. So, these are many families that we have seen throughout the course of the throughout the course. So we've seen Plantagenaceae, we see Scrofulariaceae, and so what we can see from the family tree, the common ancestor began to branch, giving rise to some of these families. And so later on, there is one big branching towards the bottom, and that is what's going to give us the family that we are going to see today, which is going to be the Verbane or Verbena. And so if we just begin to look at the different branches or different families that occur from this branching, we have Verbena, that's going to be very important. That is going to be uh, Skyflower as a representative for this family, and so because we've seen it in class. But a sister or a very closely related is going to be the family Pelariaceae, which is going to be the sesame seed flower plant or family. And you can look at the similarities within the flower. Some of them are going to be a lot bigger, but when we look at the anatomical features of the flower, they're going to have a lot of similarities. So the sesame seed family, Pelariaceae, right here, that is going to be related to Verbena. And then we're going to have the Bignoniaceae or the trumpet vine family that we've seen before. That is going to be right here. And some flowers may look similar. And then we're going to have the Acanthaceae or the Bear's Bridge family. And here's Thunbergia alata, which is the black eye Susan vine. That also is showing us some similarities. And then we're going to have the Lentiburiaceae, which is the Sandu family. Now, this is going to be a little more unusual in that it is going to be a plant that are adapted to eat animals or insects, so they are carnivorous. So that would be right here, sister to Verbena. And you see the flowers are going to have a lot of similarities. And so we get to look at the Verbenaceae family or the Verbane family, which is going to be a dicot. 31 genera. We're not going to see all of them, just the more common ones, and about 900 plus species native throughout the different parts of the world, some tropical, some temperate, and some good distribution in California. And so when we look at some of the similarities, we may find the similarities very close to the other plant groups in that they may have a square stem. So that probably had came from the ancestor. So a lot of the previous families that we talked about may also have a square stem, or at least some members who may. And they're also going to have opposite leaf. Now the leaf may change, but there is going to be two or a pair of leaf at each node. So that's going to be some of the characteristics. Now, when we look at the flowers are going to be kind of small. So you will be needing some kind of magnification to really look at the detail. And many of them are going to be mainly pollinated by butterfly, which means that they're going to have their reproductive organs, as you can see with this image, hidden within the floral tube. So there we have the stamens, there we have the corolla, which is going to be the fusion of the petals. And then we have the calyx, which is the fusion of the sepals. And so we have the stamens, we have the reproductive components, and then we have the female components embedded in here. So it's not going to be obvious to the naked eye, but they're going to be there. And so that is going to be unfortunate because it's probably best for you to know the members that belong to this family, or once you start to see the different members, then you can begin to see some general characteristics that can help you to ID members of this family. And so here's a landscape plant that is very common. It's Lantana that also belongs to this family group. Here is another big plant. And so we have a lot of the very tiny blossoms that are going to be given into or produced in cluster. So it is a highly compressed flower cluster. And so that having a large flower cluster means that they're going to have a nicer display to ensure that the butterfly or whomever is going to be pollinating it is going to be able to find them. And it also creates a landing platform. So here is the typical flowers of the lantana with some of the leaves and or the fruit as well. So lantana is very commonly used. It is a very ornamental plant. Many new hybrids have been developed, some dwarf, some not. And so that is why they're used. And people would often plant them to feed the adult butterflies in their garden. And so here's some of the other colors as well as the flower cluster. So we can see that the outer blossoms will mature first, and then they'll start going into the inner until the last one at the center is going to mature. By that time, the fruit may be produced, and you can see in the background the receptacle where you had the different blossoms that were being held, and only one got pollinated and got made into a fruit. And here's Lantana Montevidez, so the trailing lantana, showing you exactly the same characteristics of the plant. Uh, as mentioned before, we have butterflies. So the Gulf Freely butterfly with their very long proboscis, very long straw or mouth, straw-like mouth, have no problem reaching the base of the flowers or the blossoms, the tubes, and be able to drink the pollen and also bring out the pollen. Drink the nectar, sorry, and bring out the pollen. So here we have one that it's arching its mouth and it is feeding off of the flowers. And here's a different view and a different lantana of a butterfly feeding on the different blossoms. Here's from the wild. So lantana does have its origin in South America. So it is a tropical plant, now distributed as an ornamental plant in most of the world. But it's nice to see them in the wild. Every so often you find them. And there's some of the photographs, including some of the fruits. Uh, and then the type specimen, which is going to be the verbena, the genus Verbena. This is the trailing or the common ornamental plant that is used as a small scale ground cover, many different colors, as you can see here. And there's some of the whites. And still, the flowers are going to be produced in a cluster and very tiny blossoms. And you can see how they are maturing different stages. And so here's just some more colors for those. So this would be the annual and some of the newer varieties and hybrids that have been developed, or the Tapien variety that came several years ago, came out several years ago. And it is going to, or it was resistant to powdery mildew, and that's what made it very, very popular plant. So for many years, it was the choice for a ground cover because it was powdery mildew resistant and it could do very nicely. And then through the movement of California native plants, or the acceptance and or usage of California native plant from Baja California, in from some of the islands off of the Sea of Cortez, they have a small shrub-like plant, I guess. Verbena lilacina de la mina. This is a selection for being very compact. And so this has become very popular because it is a very colorful shrub. It is drought tolerant and it has a lot of flowers and butterfly attractive features. And it's a California native. So it has become very popular. It has been used in a lot of gardens. Or we have some other verbena, like this verbena from Brazil. And or we also have the California native verbena right here. And we have a midge and I've photographed and recorded many bees as they visit the flowers, native bees to California. So this is the native verbena that you would find in Southern California. And as you move around California, you may have different species or different variations of them. Now, if we go back to Mexico and South America, there's going to be some tree-like plants that will be fall members of this family, including the sky flower that is grown as a large shrub, and if given the opportunity, it can become a large tree. Known for having those big, not big, but very lots of clusters of flowers that are going to cascade with the beautiful flowers that would also attract hummingbirds and butterflies. And a small ground cover that has also started to become really popular, Phyla notifolia or toad vervain. This is another California native, but it extends beyond California, so it's almost cosmopolitan that you're going to find it south into Mexico and I think even into South America. But it has become very popular as a lawn substitute or as a steppable a plant that you can step on that is going to cover the ground and still kind of give you the same feeling and or the same look as a lawn without using as much water. And so this is now became really popular. There has been even some selections that are going to be seedless or they're going to be sterile because they do have the risk of kind of escaping from the ground or from the area. So it's a very low growing, and if you look very closely, there are lots of buds that are being developed, and then eventually you have the very cutesy small flowers that will come out, and that just adds an extra color to the area for the plant and the butterflies. And when it's allowed to kind of creep out of the pot, this is how it looks. That's when I got this photograph. And so look around, you may see it because it is being used a lot more. And here's where it's competing with a lawn or grass. I think the verbena is the weed in this case. I think it just kind of decided to take refuge amongst the grass, and it's just fighting, but it gives the lawn a nice, colorful look. And so here's a close up to show the photograph and the photograph of the flowers and the grass and the leaves and everything else, and a different view right there. And then we have other type of lepias. So we have many types of lepias out in Central and South America. Many of them do have other uses, including ornamental, but many of them have traditionally been used as a herb or as a spice. And so we have Lepia graveolens. Many of them may be known under the common name of Mexican oregano, and there's going to be many plants that will fall under that name. But this is one that has been used and it's still used to flavor some traditional food from Oaxaca. So here's when it was growing. And if you were to break the leaves and smell the leaves, it does have an oregano-like fragrance or a fragrance that will be emanated from the leaves. And so this one happens to be growing in a front yard, and I was able to photograph the flower. And not my photograph because I've not had the opportunity to grow it, but Phyla dulcis. This is another of those herbs that have very sweet leaves, just like the very common sweetener that is out there. This one, if you take the leaves and if you chew them, you will get a very sweet taste out of them. I think the other sweetener is stevia. but that comes from the sunflowers. It still has a rough taste to it, so I think it needs some work into refining the flavor and refining the sweetness to make it more palatable for the public. But nonetheless, it is going to be a sweetener and a substitute for sugar if somebody who has diabetes or cannot eat sugar would like to sweeten their tea or sweeten stuff. So that's going to be this Phyla dulcis, dulcis meaning sweet. And here's Lipia alba, Phyla and Lipia. They've been changing names, so that's why you're going to see Lipia and Phyla. So here's one that I was taken in Colombia. Here's the flowers, and this one has been a little bigger shrub. Also very popular is going to be Aloysia, which is going to be the lemon verbena. This could also be a small tree or a very large shrub, but the leaves are going to have a very, very nice fragrance, very similar to citrus. And all you got to do is take 3, 4 leaves, break them, put some hot water, steep it for 3, 4 minutes, depending on how strong you want it. And then you can enjoy a very good tea, kind of lemony tea. And it's not addictive and it's good to eat. Oh, sorry, to drink. And here's the close up of the flowers uh, for some of those. Or Lipia, uh, the other species, which is going to be very fragrant. And here's one of the biggest ones that I've seen around here in Long Beach, California. And they're growing almost as a small tree, reaching higher than the roof of the house. And there's some of the flowers. And I think this is known as incense bush because it does have very fragrant flowers. And there's a close up of that. And then we have Nasia inagensis, and this is another very popular plant that has merits a lot more attention. I know it as Caribbean tea or Jamaican tea, and it can be used for that. So the leaves are going to be very fragrant, and you can strip some of the small leaves, put them in a cup, add some boiling water, let it steep for 3, 4 minutes, and then you can enjoy a very nice tea. If you add a little bit of sugar, it enhances the flavor. And in the summer, if you want to pour it over ice, it would be a very good iced tea. So this one can also be grown, and it's a very nice plant if you ever get a chance to grow it. And there's the flowers, the leaves, and the seeds or the fruits for this. And that's what we have. So we do have it on campus, and every so often students do make their tea when they try want to make fresh tea from the garden. And there's when it was first planted, now it's a lot bigger than this. And there's the flowers. And then from South America, we have Petrea, which is known as the Queen's Wreath, because it's going to be a very nice wow factor plant. So it's kind of like a shrub, liana vine. So when it's young, it's going to when the stems are young, it's going to kind of climb. This one in the image is going to be a little bit older. It has developed woody stems, so it's now behaving more like a shrub. But when it's in flower, it's going to be a very nice display. So here are some of the flowers as they are in open and or in the bud stage. And here's some of the flowers when they're fully open. So the one on the left is in the bud stage and the one on the right is in the flower stage. So anytime somebody sees it, they always want it. It's a very nice plant to grow. Or also from Baja California, we have another large shrub, the image from Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden. So this is another no real medicinal use or other uses than a now ornamental plant, but it is another native to California. And then we have Centaur Asylum Spinosum, which is going to be known as fiddle wood. There is the clusters of flowers. So this image is from Fullerton Botanic Garden, and I've grown it here. It's the Florida fiddle wood because the wood from this tree has been traditionally used for making very expensive violins. And or here's Stachyptera, which is going to be a tropical that is often going to be seen in butterfly display or butterfly houses. Every so often you might see it for sale around here in Southern California, but not too often. Here's when I've grown it to show you the flowers. And here's when I've photographed it in the wild, kind of just growing along the side of the road. And it's a butterfly plant, so butterflies will seek out the flowers. Butterflies will drink the nectar. Butterflies will take the pollen, and that is what's happening here with some of these heliconias or long-winged butterflies. And you can see them as their mouth is taking the nectar from the flower. So very popular in flower butterfly displays or butterfly houses. And there's some more images. And just in my travels, I've come across several members of this family. Sometimes I have not taken the time to ID them, and just know from characteristics that they are either Lipia or a member of this family. So here's in Chiapas. So this is Phyla norifolia, that ground cover that we've seen before. And there's the flowers for this one. And another one here, just in the wild, growing amongst the other vegetation. And there's the flowers, and here's the fruits for those individuals. And just another one, I think this is from Cuba. There's some of the beautiful flowers, and just the different images that I was able to get. And just another one here with the fruit. And just in the garden here in Southern California in Long Beach, we have that Verbena de la Mina being used as ornamental. So with that, I wish you have a great day and take care. Bye bye.